I'm Oral Hershiser, and I am on the Blue Review. Hey, this is Sean Green. You're watching the Blue Review.
Bum, bum, da-da-dum, bum, bum. Ring. Hey, welcome to the Friday edition of the Blue Review. I'm Marcus Grant, joined by Anthony Witrano. Greg Bergman is in parts unknown. I have no idea where he is. Taking a bit of an early start to the weekend. I forgive you because Anthony, you and I were talking. Our weekend pretty much starts once we finish the show this morning.
Yeah, can't complain too much. I'll have a weekend going by probably by lunchtime.
Yeah, exactly. So, Dodgers get a win last night, 8-6, the final score. A game that was probably a little more nail biting than a lot of us thought or hoped it would be, but they do pull it out. So, we'll get into that. Also, a couple of injury notes to get to. Fingers crossed, not serious. But first, do want to let you know. As always, the Blue Review is powered by LAX. From practice to prime time, the all-electric LAX Skylink is being put through its paces in testing, getting ready to deliver reliable and traffic-free airport experience. For more information, visit lawa.org/ESPN. So, Anthony, the Dodgers do win. They hang on 8-6 last night. How would you describe it? Sloppy, frustrating? I don't know what adjective you would use to kind of talk about how that game went yesterday.
Yeah, I know. Just thankful to be out of Pittsburgh, I guess. The bullpen is, that's for sure. Yeah, it was just sort of a sloppy. It felt like a sloppy series all the way around. Just one of those kind of midweek, early June, mid June series in Pittsburgh, and you just, the offense at times looked decent. The pitching at times looked decent from a rotation perspective. Um, obviously should have been a sweep without the blow up in the middle game. But yeah, I mean, it almost felt like good thing there weren't any more innings left in that game, because who knows what would have happened.
I think that's actually a great way to put it, because yeah, they sort of hung on and got the win after, as you mentioned, sort of coughing one up the night before. I was surprised to realize that this was their first series win in Pittsburgh since 2021. That caught me off guard. I Seeing this Pirates team, they are frisky. I was kind of they're sort of Diamondbacks East. The pitching is sort of suspect, but they will just battle you at the plate. But I was very surprised to see the Dodgers haven't had that kind of success there recently.
I was surprised by that too. It almost seems impossible given how bad the Pirates have been, that the Dodgers couldn't take 2 of 3 for them at any point in the last 6 seasons or whatever. But yeah, they got it done finally. Maybe we'll hang a banner for that. Mock up another ring. But no, look, I don't so much always look, and this comes from my days as a beat writer. I don't so much look at the games as like a series, like did you win this series? I tend to break it up into larger samples, maybe a 10-game sample or a month or something like that. Because for me, those lines are almost arbitrary, aside from the fact that you're just playing the same team. And anything can happen in those small game samples. So like, them not winning in Pittsburgh since 21, that kind of stuff happens. It's weird, and it's an anomaly sometimes, but yeah, it can happen.
Looking specifically kind of at this game, Justin Wrobleski went out, left early, 4 2/3, gave up 4 runs on 6 hits, left with what was being called a right thigh contusion, a hamstring contusion, after taking a ball off his leg and then sort of twisting awkwardly at first base while trying to get the out. Doesn't look like it's going to be anything serious. The early reports are that he may not miss any time, so that is positive news there. But just your take on what you saw from Wrobleski yesterday. Was not his cleanest outing. That sort of struggled with command a little bit. Obviously gave up some hits, but your feelings on what you saw at a Robo?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this sort of outing from him before. Not the best stuff, kind of all over the zone and around the zone, but he can still be effective. and I thought that's sort of what he was doing yesterday before he got hit with that comebacker. I think this is kind of how he lives. I don't think he's going to be the kind of guy, as long as he's in the rotation, that puts together like 3 like just gorgeous starts in a row. Like I don't know that he's that guy, especially given the strategy and the philosophy that he's using to get through right now, which is, put it in the zone, kind of let some guys put it in play. He's getting some more swing and miss, but that's not necessarily his game plan. But yeah, I thought he was effective. Luckily, the injury happened on the comebacker and not the play at first base, because I think had something worse happen at first base, then we might be having a different conversation about him. So luckily, just the bruise on the thigh. Hopefully, the discomfort from that goes away. He makes his next start no biggie.
Yeah, it was a really awkward play all the way around. I think everybody held their breath when afterwards he's limping just in foul territory, and I think everyone was just praying for the best. He left the game with the trainer. Will Klein came in, finished out that inning, and then some. But again, early reports are he's not expected to miss any time, so hopefully we see him for his next turn in the rotation. That would absolutely be a positive. The other thing that all had us sort of scratching our heads and catching our breath a little bit was late in the ball game, Shohei Ohtani's spot in the order comes up, and lo and behold, it's Santiago Espinal that steps in there, and he does rip a single to center field. But I know all of us in the text chat, I'm sure Dodger fans everywhere were like, hang on, what's going on with Shohei? Turns out it's left knee inflammation. But Anthony, the early reports are that maybe not serious, that it was precautionary, and there's a chance he could be in the lineup tonight. So I think we all get to maybe exhale a little bit, just knowing that whatever this is, the Shohei, hopefully, even if it's just him taking a day off, it seems right now to be kind of minor.
If you are familiar with Dave Roberts' game, you're not taking you're not exhaling yet.
That's true.
That's fair. Like him saying it's not serious, like he'll probably be in the lineup tomorrow. That means like he's in the hospital.
Yeah.
No, look, I mean, anytime you see that guy and anything happens to him, I think it's cause for concern. Even if the Dodgers say like, yeah, we expect him to be back in the line tomorrow, it's fine. I'll believe it when he's in there and he's in the leadoff spot and he's in the box. He's the Dodgers' reputation on these things precedes them, and also he is the most important player to any team in baseball, I think, right now. So, I'm still concerned until I see him up there.
Yeah, I think that's sort of it, right? I mean, I was trying to be optimistic. I'm trying to be hopeful, but I think you bring up a good point. We have seen plenty of times. I mean, I immediately go to Tyler Glass now. Oh, it's going to be a short stay on the IL, and we haven't seen him in months. Will Smith, who's another one. Yeah, it was just a couple of days off. Now all of a sudden he's on the IL, which I should ask, because we talked about this yesterday. We talked about this with Matthew Moreno on the show. Of all the places the Dodgers have a lot of depth up and down the organization, it does seem like catcher is sort of thin. Chucky Robinson's going to be the guy that gets the call up while Will is on the IL. I mean, is Dalton Rushing ready for everyday catching duties for the time being?
I think Rushing is. But after him, there's a pretty steep fall off, I think, in any production you might expect to get. And last year with Rortvet, at least like you got one side of it, right? Like game calling, defense was solid. Chucky Robinson is a good player, but I don't know that any of those skills stand out as elite. And you talk about the depth at that position is kind of dropping off quickly. I think that's just about all organizations, unless they have like one of their top prospects who might be a catcher is like close, like he's in AAA. Other than that, like most guys have their catching prospects, at the lower levels, not ready for the big leagues, if they have one at all. And so, you are definitely right about just the lack of depth being there, but I don't think that's a Dodger specific problem. It's kind of all around the league. Catching is just one of those, it's a tough position to build depth at. And if you have it, it becomes a valuable commodity. And, sometimes those guys get included in major trades. I mean, you think of all the teams that asked for Dalton rushing in the last few years, right? So, yeah, it's hopefully rushing stays healthy. I think if Robinson has to do some spot starts, or if maybe there's a non-IL kind of nagging injury that rushing has, I think Robinson is fine. But as much as I like Chucky Robinson, we hope we don't see a whole lot of him.
You're right. You talk about a lack of catching prospects across Major League Baseball. Is that just because there's so much involved in the position? I mean, obviously, you want offense ideally, but having to manage pitchers, having to manage a staff, having to call a game, is it just that development that takes longer with those guys?
It's a development thing, for sure. Also, like, that position is graded a little bit differently than the other 8, or the other 7, I should say, not talking about pitching, because it's like one of the only positions that they look at still as defense first. And if you are a good offensive player and maybe you're just like okay behind the plate, some organizations will look to move you out of there, just to save you. And, we've had that conversation about Will Smith. We've had it about Dalton rushing. Back in the day, they had it about Diego Cartaya. So there's a lot of different factors that go into that. Also, like, a lot of guys don't want to catch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even though it could be a quick way to move up a system, like, it's not a glamour position. It's tough. And so I think, even at the lower levels, you realize you have a good offensive player who plays catcher, and you're like, hey, can you play left field or third base or first base? It's just sort of how the position goes. So I think that's why if you do have a gem there, it becomes really valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I think to your point, that the name that popped into my head, I mean, you remember, this, Bryce Harper started his life as a catcher, and
a really good one,
a really good catcher. And the Phillies, and I'm sure other organizations would have thought the same. The Phillies realized, you know what, or the Nationals, I guess, originally realized, we're going to help ourselves and probably extend your career by taking you out from behind the plate and putting you in the outfield. And obviously we see what Bryce Harper has become throughout his career because of it. So yeah, it is certainly tough to find guys at that position. I wanted to ask you about Mookie Betts, because we've talked about this. I know between the four of us, sort of privately, we've probably talked about it on the show. It just feels like Mookie can't catch a break. He got a home run robbed from him. He seems to hit the ball hard, and it seems to be right at guys. The 185, I know, is tough to look at. I'm sure it's really tough for him to look at. I don't really know what to say other than you got to think at some point the breaks start to go his way, but it just seems like he just can't catch anything going positive for him.
Yeah, like, let me start by saying this. Mookie Betts hasn't been good so far. That is the blanket statement, the blanket caveat. But man, he's been really unlucky. I mean, it seems like almost every time he hits the ball hard, it's at somebody, or somebody goes and runs it down, makes a really good play on it, or something like that. I think for these guys, that's like, they'll tell themselves like, hey, that was good. It was an atom ball, whatever. Don't get too down on yourself. But when it happens, like, for an extended period of time, it's kind of hard not to be like, what the hell? When are these things going to start to fall? And I think we said this last week, maybe it was the Friday before, but you look at Mookie Betts' Savant page, and there's a lot of red in there in some good places. And from the last time we talked about it, those things were like dark pink to like light red. There's a lot of deep red in those meters right now. When you look at that page, if anyone's ever looked at a Baseball Savant page, it's basically like a meter, and it has a bunch of different categories, and blue is not good. Red is very good. And he's got a lot of red. He just doesn't have a lot of results right now.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think to your point, it's hard. I know a lot of things, in this life, you talk about process over results, and it does seem like the process. There it is. There's the Baseball Savant page there for Mookie Betts. It does seem like the process seems to be working, and everything we hear from the coaches. I had a chance to talk to Oral Hershiser a couple of weeks ago, and he said just the work that Mookie's putting in, that everybody feels like something is about to turn. But then it just doesn't. And so I know you can talk about the process over the results, but at some point you just got to see the results starting to happen, and hopefully it starts to happen soon. But it's been a tough, I'd say tough year and a half now for Mookie. I mean, going back to the start of last year when he got sick and just not being able to put together an offensive season, and now this year being what it is, it's been a really, really tough go
Yeah,
for Mookie.
he's had, and you're right, Marcus, about like the time frame here, but you go back to before the broken hand, and he was arguably the best player on the team and probably the front runner that early within the first 2 months. He was the front runner probably for National League MVP at that time. And I think since the broken hand, we're holding him still to that same standard. And we've talked about adjusting expectations for Mookie now that he's on sort of the other side of this prime. But he then he got sick, and then his stepfather was not doing well, and then ended up passing away during last season. And we don't know exactly. He doesn't talk much about that. Aside from that, it was tough. We don't know how much that weighed on him mentally, and then that's difficult as well because that was a drawn out process for that family. And going back to the hand thing, there's been some studies out there done on Major League Baseball players from like how long does it take from a fractured hand to get back to your baseline level, meaning where you were at pre-injury. And everyone says it takes about a year plus. Kyle Tucker's sort of in the same boat, but potentially. Mookie's more than a year removed from that now, but I also think that he's got other, some of the swings not right, the body composition with the sickness and the illness last year. All of these things play into each other. I also think he's just kind of an older, declining player. Not that he's bad, but he's not at the peak of that prime anymore. And so when he has had good stretches during this time. The last 2 months of last season, he was productive. But you look at where he's at right now, and yeah, you kind of feel for the guy because the process all seems right. It's just like we said, the results aren't there. And if he can get some of those things to start to turn the other way, maybe we start to see him turn around his season offensively.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, and I'm glad you said offensively too, because you mentioned that, and then as pointed out in the chat, Carlos Garcia saying he's still playing really good defense over at shortstop. His evolution into a shortstop has been amazing to watch, and he continues to just be really, really good over there. So that part is certainly encouraging there. Just hopefully the bat starts to come around a little bit. Dodgers start a 3-game series in Chicago against the White Sox. And for the first time in a long time, Anthony, I think we go in there and say, the White Sox are not a walkover. They are not a pushover. They start today actually in first place in the AL Central. They're 5 games over 500. This a couple of years ago was a team that set the record for most losses in a season. I still have on my phone saved the picture of a dejected Miguel Vargas sitting in the corner after he had gotten traded from the Dodgers to the White Sox. I expect this is going to be a really competitive series. And I don't know that we would have said that at the start of the season.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, this is probably the most drastic surprise and drastic turnarounds in baseball this season. They're a pretty good club. Far from great, but they're a pretty good club. That division isn't great in the American League either, but still, you're 5 games above 500 in mid-June. Things are going well for you. And Miguel Vargas, who you talk about, like he's a borderline all-star right now. At least the last time I looked at the numbers, but there's some things to celebrate over there. I think we're going to miss Murakami. I think he's still on the IL, but he's been maybe for the White Sox, he's not a surprise, but I think for the rest of baseball, it was surprising at how quickly he took off. He started to cool down before he got hurt a little bit, but like basically every team passed on this guy as a hitter coming over from Japan. And when he got hurt, I think he had like 15 or 16 homers.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been a really fun team to watch. Hopefully they're not so fun this weekend though.
Yeah, that's kind of the hope. Yeah. You talk about Murakami, and I know there was a lot of questions about could he hit fastballs, in the American Major League level. And it seems like people keep challenging him, and he keeps proving that he can hit the fastball and hit it a long way. And I'm kind of wondering, when people start to figure it out, and maybe stop doing that. But he is still on the IL, so it doesn't seem like the Dodgers are going to see him this weekend. Game 1 of the series, though, it is Roki Sasaki getting the ball for the Dodgers, going against Anthony Kay. Do you think we see the continued progression of Roki? Because every start seems to be better than the last. I don't know how he continues to top it, but do we see another solid Roki start this weekend?
Yeah, from a final line score standpoint, I think it would be very difficult for him to be better than what he was in the last start. 7 shutty, 10 strikeouts. That's tough for anybody to get better than. But look, I think you pay attention to the process with him again. Can he command the fastball? How does the slider look? How does the splitter look? And maybe the line's not as great. Maybe it's 6 innings and he gives up 2 or something like that, which is still a pretty good start. So I think we focus more on the process, because I think long term for Roki, that's what's going to matter. If he's going to be a factor in this rotation for the rest of the season, that's the stuff that has to stay consistent, even if, maybe he gives up a solo shot and they scratch another one across or something like that, right? I think right now, aside from Ohtani, who anytime he pitches, even though it's June against Pittsburgh, I watch it like it's October because of his Cy Young chances. And he basically has to be perfect for him to have a real shot at that. Which, he may have kind of blown a little bit against the Pirates. We'll see. But Sasaki is like 1B anytime he starts, because it's it's going to be news. It's going to be talked about, not just for Dodgers content, but for national content. And he is such an intriguing prospect. And he looks like he's a guy who's turning it around. Tonight against a better lineup than the Angels, against a better lineup than some of the recent competition, this will be an interesting barometer. Again, it feels like we say that all the time about him, but it's just because like the work in progress for him is just so fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. But he is starting to look like the guy that Dodger fans were told that he is. Not there yet, but it's definitely starting to get a little bit closer. And I think the people in the organization are starting to feel more encouraged by what they have seen from him. So we will watch tonight, first pitch at 4:40 our time here in Los Angeles. First of 3 over the weekend with the White Sox competing. It's a big weekend competing with you got the NBA Finals on Saturday. We got the World Cup going all weekend. So a big weekend in sports all across the country. So looking forward to that. Anthony, appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Yes, sir, man. Talk to you soon.
All righty. Stick around. This is Sedano Cat Morning Extravaganza coming up after us. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to Tim for production assistance. Greg, hopefully back with us on Monday. Expect him to be back with us after enjoying his long weekend. Enjoy it, Greg, wherever you are. But that'll do it for this edition of the Blue Review presented by LAX. For Anthony, I'm Marcus. We'll talk to you Monday morning, 6:30 to 6:55 here on the ESPN LA YouTube channel. See ya. I forgot to mention, it's the Pope's team.